Tonight, the race to get there. The ground stop snarling one of the country's biggest travel hubs. Heavy fog halting flights, and the storm front complicating travel for the last wave of passengers trying to get home in time. Where the system is headed next, bringing heavy rain with it. And the child lost in the shuffle, flying alone and sent to the wrong city. What the airline is saying tonight. Deep inside Hamas tunnels, new video from underground as Israel's military says that's where they found the bodies of 5 hostages. The latest on the long-shot effort to restart negotiations, with reports of dozens killed in a new refugee camp strike overnight. And new warning signs the conflict could expand. A tanker struck by Iran an ocean away. Plus, the Pope's message of peace and Richard Engel's rare access in Bethlehem, a silent night in the Holy Land during wartime. COVID, flu, and RSV on the rise. The new CDC warning of sharp increases in cases, just as families get together for the holidays. And back to the bumper crop at the Cabbage Patch. Our visit to the tiny town where the iconic dolls are still being born 40 years after the nationwide frenzy.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. I'm Garrett Hake in for Kate. A near record number of Americans have braved the long lines and the complicated logistics to get home this Christmas Eve. But for those waiting until the last minute, the outlook is foggy tonight after a key hub spent much of the day at a standstill. And a storm system that left roads a mess in the plains is now tracking eastward, set to bring heavy rains from the Great Lakes to the southeast. Still, it's nothing compared to a year ago when the luggage of Southwest flyers littered carousels across the country. Shaquille Brewster starts us off from Chicago Midway Airport. And Shaq, Chicago was really the epicenter of a lot of the country's travel woes today.
That's right, Garrett, and it's still struggling to catch up. More than half the flights from Midway were delayed today, impacting other major hubs across the country as folks struggle to race home for Christmas.
Tonight, rough weather across the country, slowing down the Christmas Eve travel rush.
A little bit stressed because I don't want to miss my flight.
Dense fog causing a ground stop at Chicago's Midway Airport.
We are now 20th in line to get to a gate while we sit on the tarmac.
More than 300 flights canceled and delayed, leading to long lines and frustrated passengers.
Tried to leave yesterday. We had an evening flight and it was delayed because of the fog and then eventually canceled.
With 40 million across the Great Lakes under fog alerts earlier today, the weather causing a ripple effect of more than 3,000 delays nationwide, trapping passengers like Doreen Voorhees stuck for over 15 hours.
You were going to drive from Florida.
Yes, because Christmas is important, and it's important that I'm with my kids.
Those traveling by road met with blizzard conditions across the Rockies and northern plains. Heavy snow and high winds causing this semi-truck to slide off the road in Nebraska. The travel trouble coming during what's projected to be one of the busiest travel seasons on record. In Florida, a 6-year-old boy flying alone was mistakenly put on the wrong flight by a Spirit Airlines employee. The airline now apologizing to the family, saying the child was always under the care and supervision of a Spirit team member, and as soon as we discovered the error, we took immediate steps to communicate with the family and reconnect them. But no nationwide disruption this year for Southwest, after last year's holiday meltdown led to nearly 17,000 canceled flights and 2 million stranded passengers, including Doreen.
Can't control the weather. You just can't. And with Chicago, you never know what's going to happen.
Home for the holidays at last.
And Garrett, back here in Chicago, you see the growing line of passengers hoping to rebook onto new flights, just a sign that the impact from today's weather delays will likely extend into tomorrow.
Shaq Brewster in Chicago. Shaq, thank you. And in the Middle East, we're getting new insight into the Hamas tunnels crisscrossing under Gaza, where Israeli forces recently found the bodies of 5 hostages. It comes as new airstrikes reportedly have left dozens dead in a Gaza refugee camp in one of the deadliest single attacks of the war. Josh Letterman reports.
Tonight, the world is seeing just how deeply Hamas has burrowed itself underneath the Gaza Strip. Israel's military releasing several edited videos showing a sprawling web of tunnels in northern Gaza, complete with a shower and a toilet, extensive plumbing and electrical gear, air tanks, even a water cooler. The IDF says the tunnel network comprised 2 levels, dozens of feet underground, that passed under a school and a hospital. NBC News can't verify those claims. Israel also revealing it found the bodies of 5 hostages in the tunnels. Their deaths were already known. The circumstances were not. As efforts to free more than 100 remaining hostages appear stalled, Israel is reeling from one of its deadliest stretches of the war. 15 Israeli troops killed since Friday, according to the IDF. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying today that Israel is deepening the fighting in the Gaza Strip, where tonight one of the deadliest strikes of the war killed at least 70 at central Gaza's Maghazi refugee camp, the Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry says, leaving a sea of body bags outside a nearby hospital. The IDF says it's reviewing the incident. For Palestinians throughout Gaza, the war's cost is staggering. The Naim family from northeastern Gaza fled 3 times to safety with their 3 children, all with disabilities. Upon finally reaching Rafah, they say an Israeli missile strike near a UN school destroyed their tent and their son's wheelchair. I don't know how to take him to the bathroom, she says. He can't go by himself. My 3rd son can't walk at all. How can I help them? In a phone call this weekend, President Biden urged Netanyahu to protect Gaza's civilians, but stopped short of demanding he call off the war. And the conflict is increasingly spilling out of Gaza and across the region. New clashes between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen launching drones toward a U.S. Navy ship in the Red Sea. And the U.S. saying a drone fired from Iran struck a chemical tanker in the Indian Ocean. It's the first time the U.S. has accused Iran itself of attacking a ship since the Gaza war began.
And Garrett, one of the reasons that these Iran-linked attacks are so alarming is that Iran has been threatening to close international waterways, including the Mediterranean, unless the U.S. stops Israel's war in Gaza.
And Josh, even as the fighting in Gaza seems to be getting worse, is there any progress being made in talks for a new pause?
Well, Israeli and Arab media say that Egypt is pushing a proposal to trade 40 hostages in exchange for a multi-week pause in the fighting. But Hamas has been insisting no more hostages will be released unless there is a permanent ceasefire. And so as of right now, there is no deal. Garrett?
Josh Lederman on the ground in Israel. Josh, thank you. Now to the latest twist in the court battle between the special counsel and former President Trump. His legal team asking an appeals court to dismiss the federal election interference case against him. It comes after the Supreme Court declined to fast-track the case. Mr. Trump has argued that presidential immunity protects him from prosecution over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. And in California, outrage tonight after a mother was fatally shot when sheriff's deputies responded to her domestic violence call. Liz Kreutz spoke to her father and has late details tonight.
Tonight, questions mounting over the death of 27-year-old mother Niani Finlayson. Her family says she was shot and killed by police in front of her 9-year-old daughter after calling 911 seeking help for domestic violence. Finlayson's family has filed a legal claim, the first step to filing a lawsuit. In it, they allege in early December, Finlayson called for help after her estranged boyfriend would not leave her home.
It's the worstest nightmare you ever want to go through.
The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department said that when police arrived, they saw Finlayson holding a large knife, making verbal threats indicating she may harm the man. They say when she approached him, that's when deputies fired the fatal shot. But Finlayson's family disputes that account, and according to the claim, even the ex-boyfriend told authorities there was no reason to shoot Finlayson.
What are you asking?
I'm asking for justice. You couldn't mace her. You couldn't use a stun gun. This is infallible.
Finlayson's distraught father, Lamont, says his granddaughter saw the traumatic shooting unfold. The young girl says she gave her mom the knife for self-defense.
He was hurting my mother and me. I didn't have no choice but to get something sharp.
Finlayson's family announced they are now suing the County of Los Angeles and the Sheriff's Department for $30 million, alleging wrongful death and civil rights violations. In a statement, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department saying they are reviewing the incident and will release the body camera video by next week. But tonight, a father mourns the loss of his daughter.
I sing all the time, most wonderful time of the year. Well, this is the most worst time of my life, the year and years to come. I will never be able to get her back.
Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
As travelers rush to see family and loved ones for the holidays, the CDC is warning about a sharp uptick in respiratory illness. Jesse Kirsch has the latest.
As millions travel this holiday weekend, tonight COVID and flu are also on the move. The CDC releasing this new map showing very high flu-like illness levels across the South, with activity trending up in the Midwest and Northeast. Officials believe RSV cases have peaked for the season, but the CDC says weekly flu hospital admissions are increasing. COVID cases are also rising across the country. That's keeping medical teams busy, like at Chicago's Northwestern Memorial Hospital.
This is influenza, right?
Dr. Mark Sala works in the ICU.
What goes through your mind when you see those cases climbing?
We have to be prepared for ongoing more cases that need life support in the ICU.
Northwestern Medicine says back in October, beds like these were filled with patients dealing with a range of issues. But now, just before Christmas, the hospital says the majority of patients in this ICU are dealing with respiratory illnesses.
With masks and social distancing largely gone, Dr. Sala says we're looking at a new kind of holiday season.
Have this, I guess, a cornucopia of all these viruses that we had known before that have come back, and also the COVID we were dealing with before.
This winter mix bringing a reminder to protect yourself and others.
Set yourself up for success getting vaccinated. Wear your mask, wash your hands, avoid touching your eyes and nose and mouth when you're in public. And I think those are the best things you can do to help stay out of the hospital, the ICU, and protect your loved ones.
Lessons from a pandemic to keep you and your family healthy heading into the new year. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News, Chicago.
Still ahead tonight, the Pope's message of peace with the world at war. And on Christmas Eve, rare access in Bethlehem. Our Richard Engel reports. We're back with a Christmas Eve message of peace from Pope Francis at the Vatican, where he prayed for those suffering from misery, slavery, and especially war. The Pope specifically mentioned those impacted by the Israel-Hamas war and the war in Ukraine. He's presiding over Christmas Mass tonight and will deliver his Christmas Day message tomorrow. Christmas Eve looks a lot different in Bethlehem this year, one of the holiest places in the world, after the Israel-Hamas war shut down visits to the biblical birthplace of Jesus. And as Richard Engel reports, people there are praying for peace now more than ever.
The Christian faithful believe a star guided the three wise men to Bethlehem, carrying gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh for the newborn Christ. This year, the wise men would find the little town closed. Christmas celebrations are officially canceled by the mayor and churches in solidarity with the 2.3 million people of Gaza. In Manger Square, there's no tree nor lights. Instead, a creche shows baby Jesus in a destroyed building to represent the victims in Gaza. Bethlehem is in the West Bank. The people here are Palestinians. Gaza is only 50 miles away. Richard Tabash, a Palestinian Christian, owns one of the biggest stores in Bethlehem.
And a lot of your carvings are, for obvious reasons, of the nativity scene.
Nativity scene, because this is what represents Bethlehem. This is where all the story started.
He says he'd normally see up to 10 busloads of visitors during the holiday season.
And when was the last time you had a single customer?
Well, it was on the 6th of October, just the day before the war. Then from the 7th up to today, it's zero business.
At the Tabash's home, we met his wife and daughters. No wreath or presents this year. 9-year-old Sophia says the holiday isn't about toys anyway.
We didn't even decorate anything because of the war, and innocent people are dying, and I feel so bad for them.
So no present for you?
No.
Does that bother you?
No. Children in Gaza, they don't get gifts or anything because of the war.
At the heart of Bethlehem is the Church of the Nativity. But pass through the door of humility now, and you'll find almost no one. We met Reverend Mitri Rahab.
In this sacred place at this special time, do you have a Christmas message for our viewers?
My Christmas message is Jesus was born to bring peace to this world, and the ball is in our court. We are all invited to be peacemakers and not peace talkers. We are fed up with peace talkers and peace talks. It's time for peacemaking.
Below the altar is the grotto, the spot where tradition says Jesus was born. Pilgrims can wait up to 4 hours for a glimpse of this. We were alone to witness the rituals that have continued uninterrupted for roughly 2,000 years. Spiritually, Christmas isn't canceled, but no one is in the mood here for a celebration, not even for Jesus' birthday. Richard Engel, NBC News, Bethlehem.
We'll take a break. When we return, 40 years since the Cabbage Patch craze. We'll take you to the small town where it never ended. Plus, why hundreds of tuba and euphonium players braved the rain to spread holiday cheer right here at Rockefeller Center. It's been 40 years since Cabbage Patch Kids took the country by storm, sending parents, kids, and toy stores into a frenzy. But as Joe Fryer reports, decades later, they are still being born and getting adopted.
When the Cabbage Patch Kids exploded on the scene in 1983, you can give them all your love. The harmonious ads were at odds.
Shoppers went wild
With what it took to actually acquire one.
I got my dog!
Toy stores turned into wrestling rings.
I got my 3-year-olds down here!
A blood sport for a stuffed toy. There were victors.
There she is. Hello.
Jennifer Harris Marks was 13 when she got Corinne Marie, one of the last dolls on the store shelf.
You'll do whatever you can, and if that means fighting in the toy aisles, you'll fight in the toy aisles.
Well, I never expected riots in the department stores.
Xavier Roberts created the Cabbage Patch Kids, which were unlike any other dolls on the market at that time. They were distinctive and diverse. Each one had a unique name and birthday.
You weren't buying a doll, you were adopting a Cabbage Patch baby.
Chris Bench is chief curator at the Strong National Museum of Play, which just inducted Cabbage Patch Kids into the Toy Hall of Fame.
I remember my mom got a tip that some were arriving in the town hardware store, quietly lined up in the back door. People were let in one at a time.
It was kind of like a speakeasy.
It's a craze that paved the way for Furby Mania and Tickle Me Elmo. Today, Cabbage Patch Kids are not only still on the market, they're delivered daily at a place called Babyland General Hospital in Georgia.
And we have a beautiful baby girl.
I said, they have the Cabbage Patch Hospital.
Yeah.
And she said, we're going. And I said, absolutely.
For adults, it's nostalgia.
Baby, do you want to hold the baby?
For kids, it's a chance to hold the dolls, even adopt one, without all that pushing and shoving. Turns out it was not just a passing fad.
Why have you held on to her for so long?
Oh gosh, I can't imagine not. Where would she go?
What was planted in the patch more than 4 decades ago is still growing. Joe Fryer, NBC News.
And when we come back, there's good news tonight about a holiday tradition unlike any other, right here at Rockefeller Center. Euphonium Euphoria next. Finally, there's good news tonight about the magic of the holidays and the power of music to bring all of us together. Here's Kate Snow.
At New York's Rockefeller Center, this is what holiday cheer looks and sounds like. Hundreds of tuba and euphonium players from across the country.
I came from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
We came from South Dakota.
Massillon, Ohio.
Even the North Pole.
It's a thrill. I heard about it. I said, I got to do that.
They lined up in the rain this month to perform in the Tuba Christmas 50th anniversary show.
This is like a bucket list item, a dream for me.
I've been coming since high school.
The celebration marking half a century in the spot where it all began back in 1974.
How many more years of a tuba Christmas do we have?
What does infinity look like?
Gary Press helps coordinate the tradition. He's been involved since the mid-'80s.
What do people love about the tuba?
There's a camaraderie that we always notice. Tuba players just get along. That's the simplest way to put it.
That camaraderie has led to tuba gatherings across the U.S. and even overseas.
Tuba players, they're playing the low notes in the band, and they're often supporting everything else. And what's great about this event is they sit there and they are the ones that shine.
We all have music inside of us, and the ability to be able to express that is an incredibly emotional and powerful experience.
But for the players here, there's simply nothing more magical than Christmas carols at Rockefeller Center.
When you play the tuba, you realize it's like a big warm hug.
A joyful noise. Our thanks to Kate Snow for that report. And that's NBC Nightly News for this Sunday. I'm Garrett Haake. For all of us here at NBC News, Merry Christmas and good night.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.